was born in Canton, China in 1914. My parents didn't think I was going to live, so they put me in a little box and left me outside. In those days, they don't like baby died in the house. And somehow, I think the night air or something that revived me. The next morning, they found me still alive and brought me in the house, and I began to recover. My grandmother became a Christian. She was very liberated. She had bound feet. After she became a Christian, a missionary helped her loosen her feet, so she's able to walk quite normally. I have Philip, my older brother. Behind me, there was another brother who died, and then came Pearl, and then John. And after John, there were two other brothers that died within about a year old with pneumonia. If we all lived, there would be 7 of us, but 4 of us survived. The place where I grew up until about 3 or 4 years old, we lived in a mission compound. I had a very good memory of this place. It's a beautiful compound with Bible school, orphanage, a missionary home. I must have been about 3 when my father was sent to this place called Goming, and so the family moved to Goming to live. It's a small town with one street of business where our chapel was. We live upstairs, and downstairs is the meeting place where every night we had meeting. Then during the bazaar, people brought their goods to sell along the street. And that's when my father opened the door and asked people to come in and serve them tea, and they would stay and Father would preach to them. So that's a nice little town with a river nearby. Actually, that's hardly a river because I went back with Frankie 6 or 7 years ago, and I looked at this river used to be, it's just a little stream, and the cobblestone street was still there. There was a pagoda. It used to be very tall, for us, but now maybe it's just 1 story high. Every year we had flood. The flood would come to the whole town, and the water just kept rising until it comes up to the 2nd floor where we live. So for several days, water stay, and then soon the water retreat. And then we had a mess to clean up. But this river is a great place for us to spend our days, because my parents, they have to go visit members of the church and doing different things. So we were left alone, and we roamed the town, and we play in the river. It must be a small river because it was safe. See, we never were afraid to be drowned. We caught fish, and we picked clams, and we really had a lot of fun. My brother, Philip, he got to go to school because there was no other school except this school operated by Confucius Temple. And so he went there to study. There was no school for girls, but mother taught me to read some. And then later we had missionaries who tried to come to open a school. So I was one of the 5 students in this little school they started. No parents put their girls in school anyway. We learned to read and write. That was kind of fun. But the school didn't last long on account of no student. So I wasn't in school until when I was 11. Father thought I better go to school. So he sent Philip and me back to Canton to the mission. The mission has a school. And so I stayed in the mission for about 4 years until I met Miss Rinker and my formal education began. Miss Rinker was one of the missionaries. She was only 20 years old at that time, and somehow she paid attention to me and asked me if I like to learn English. And so she started to teach me ABC and to say a few words in English, and she gave me the name Helen. So we became very good friends. And she always did a lot of things like a big sister. When I was 14, she decided to send me to a better school in Canton called True Light School. That's the same school my grandmother attended. But by that time, it has become a very famous girls' school. And they not only have a primary school, they also have a high school in another area. Now, when I went to True Light, I still was living in the compound. But every day I traveled back and forth. I had to cross the river to the school. The True Light only was there for a year. After 1 year, Miss Rinker went to Shanghai. She was transferred to Shanghai, so she wanted me to go. So I also went to Shanghai. Oh, and at that time, Philip was in Shanghai, and he was in Bethel, so I was also sent to Bethel. So Philip and I stayed together. Philip was there, and he said, "You're too old to be in 4th grade." And so he asked to let me go to first year high school. So that means I skipped from 4th grade to first year high school. And I had a hard time because English was very difficult. And I said, I better go down to 6th grade. And he said, no, if you have any difficulty, I'll help you. So my most difficulty is English. So he tutored me. I remember the first time I had examination, my grade was 23 or something like that. And then by the end of the year, my grade went up to 90 something. My teacher was very pleased. She called me over and said, I'm very surprised your English has improved that much so quickly. So since then, I was very interested in studying English. After 1 year, the school had to close because the Chinese government demanded all the children have to bow to the picture of Sun Yat-sen. The missionaries didn't think that we could do that, so they rather closed the school. And then I went back to Canton. It happened that we knew about this St. Hilda's school. They followed the English system, so I took an examination and they put me in Form 3. It's a boarding school, so a room and board in the school. So I stayed there for 3 years, Form 3 to Form 5. We lost track of Miss Rinker. She came back to America, and so my grandmother at that time was working in a place called the Door of Hope, which is a shelter for the runaway slave girls or runaway concubines. So my grandmother worked in this place as a house mother and teacher. So when I couldn't go to school, grandmother said, come and help me. So I taught in their classes and took care of many things for grandmother. One day, the founders of Bethel Mission, where I was before, in Shanghai, they came to look at this place. And when they knocked at the door, I looked and I recognized them. And they recognized me. I opened the door and let them in. They said, you shouldn't be in this place. You're too young to do things like that. And why don't you go to school? And I told them that I have no means to go to school. She said, do you want to come to Shanghai? We'll send you to school. So immediately they went to father and mother and told them that they wanted to take me to Shanghai. But the missionaries sent me to a very nice school in Shanghai, very good Baptist girls' school called Anmosi High School. So I had 3 years of high school in this very good school. And after that, I went back to Bethel. They had Bible school. My natural course is to go to attend the Bible school in Bethel when I have finished. I was there for 2 years in this Bible school. A 4 years course. I studied 2 years. until 1937, Japanese came to bomb Shanghai. So the Bethel had to close, and they sent the children, the students back to where they came from. By the time Japanese warships already blockade the Huangpu River, we found a Dutch freighter. That was the last boat leaving Shanghai. And they allowed this boat to go out, and we were able to take this boat back to Hong Kong. So the three of us went back home where father and mother were. By that time, Philip already came to United States. We wrote to Philip and told him that we had gone back to Hong Kong. At that time, Philip already finished his seminary training, doing part-time ministry as pastor in this Chinese church. So he knew this Baptist missionary training school, and so he knew the president. So he went to this school and asked her if there is a scholarship for me. Then my brother said, my sister likes to come. So only a month after we went back to Hong Kong, then I was able to come to this country. I was 22, going on 23. I took a boat, President Hoover, and happened somebody also was taking the same boat. She knew Philip, and so she looked for me on the boat. And so all along the way, we got acquainted with Stella Lee. When we came to dock at San Francisco, it was on Sunday. Everybody who could get off, they got off. But those who have to go through immigration cannot get off. So they took all these people to Angel Island. You are in Angel Island, they treat you like a prisoner. They shoo us into a room, assign us to a bed, and so forth. The next day, Stella's father came. That's where he worked, in this Angel Island. So he looked for me, and he found me. He said, don't worry, you can get off today. So he processed my case right away and then took me to his house. That's where I met Stella again and the whole family. I stayed overnight with them, and they sent me on the train to Chicago. Philip was a full-time minister in Union Church. So once I was in Chicago, then I went to the school, Baptist Missionary Training School. I spent 4 years in the school. I lived among very nice people because the students were all Christians. They were all studying to be missionary, and many became like Christian center workers, or some would go teaching. It's very easy for me to adjust to the new environment because they're also helpful. Every year they have a May Day festival, and they would choose a senior as a May Queen. So when I was a senior, I was chosen to be May Queen. What I love to do most is to serve as volunteer in a Chinese Christian Union Church. That's a Chinese church in Chicago. I get to know people quite well. So the 4 years I was in school, taught Sunday school, and very much involved with their young people activity and church activity and so forth. That's where I knew my husband. My husband, he attended church very regularly. He was one of the very faithful members of the church. And then later he became a deacon in the church. Well, he was a bachelor, very successful in his business. Sometimes he would take me home at night because I would stay. So by the time the evening service is through, fellowship is through, then he would take me back to school. Not only take me, but take other people. He had a small Plymouth coupe, only had the front seat. But in those days, you can pile up people. Now, I wasn't interested in marriage or anything. I was looking forward to go back to China to teach or to do Christian work. After I graduated, Mr. G, Reverend G from Bethel in Shanghai, came to see me. He said, we'd like you to come to Shanghai and help us. I almost decided to go, But at that same time, Father wrote me a letter and said, don't come back yet, because we hear some news about Chinese political situation is not very stabilized. Stay in America if you can for a little while longer. So in the meantime, I went to Washington, D.C. because they needed a teacher for the Chinese school. My job was to teach the children after school. They have a Chinese school. And for a whole year, I did that. At that time, I registered myself in this Washington School of Music, taking a few courses. And I have to pay that tuition and have to pay my rent, which is not too much, like $25 a month. While I was in Washington, D.C., that's 1941, in December, Pearl Harbor was bombed. And since then, there's no passage to go back. So I was really stranded at that time. During that time, Philip had transferred himself to Los Angeles in the Presbyterian church as a minister. So he wrote to me, he said, why don't you come to Los Angeles, and here we can find a job for you easy. So I got a job in Washington, D.C. and was on my way to Los Angeles. I took my opportunity to stop in Chicago to visit friends, because I make many friends over there. While I was there, my husband came to visit me. He wanted to take me out, so we had dates every day. We never had dates before, just friends. But this time, we really dated. But we knew each other quite well. And I knew he was interested in me. He wrote to me when I was in Washington, D.C., and he asked people to talk to me about marriage. And at that time, I didn't want to get married because I wanted to go back to China. So before I had a chance to go to Los Angeles, he proposed to me. I already thought, well, I'm not going back to China, and I have to stay here. I don't know what I should do, and maybe this is a good step to take. And I accepted the proposal, and so we got married. I came back to Chicago. That must be during July, and we were married in September. It was a good experience because I always living among many people. Like in school, I room and board in school. Always a lot of people living together. And then after we were married, just the two of us, it's kind of hard. Yeah, he noticed that. He said, because you're always with a lot of people, you are happy when you're among many people. But when you're alone with me, you're different. That's true. You have to learn how to live with one person. Marriage was good to me and good for me because that's when I really learned how to live. It's easy to be a student. All you have to do is to study, right? You don't get along with somebody, you can always get along with another person. But after you're married, you have to get along with that one person for life. So I learned a great deal about life and how to get along. In Chicago, before the children came, we lived on the north side in an apartment. Then we were expecting Frankie. We started to look for another place. So in those days, it's not easy to find an apartment. People are still very prejudiced against Chinese. Many people turned us down until we found this place, Mr. and Mrs. Nye. They are very nice people. Once they saw us, they said, "Oh, you come and stay in our apartment." So Frankie was born after we moved in. We lived there maybe 3 or 4 years, and then the apartment was too little, so we decided to buy a house. And we saw this place, 63rd Street in Chicago, and we bought this place. When we were married, he was quite successful with his engraving business. The place was quite large. He hired several people to work in each department. But then later on, there was a union who came to threaten him, but he did not want to join the union. And so nobody wanted to work. He had to do it all by himself. But then he trained me to take the camera and developing. So I did that for about 2 years until Frankie was born. Then I had to quit. Then it began to bother his eye because the very fine work that he had to do. And so he decided he should look for something else. We sold the business. And so we tried Phoenix, and he stayed there for a couple months, and he tried to open a cafe, and that didn't work out. They wanted him to join the union, and he didn't want to. And so they picketed his place. That was too much for him, so he decided to give that up. So he came to Palm Springs, and he found this little grocery store. He said, oh, that is workable. So he went back to Chicago. We sold the house, packed everything. Then we took that little trailer, and we drove this trailer all the way to Palm Springs. On the way, we'd stop at different places. So that was a good summer that we spent. Anyway, we went to Palm Springs. We bought this place. It's a small market. We call it Central Market. In those days, there was no supermarket in Palm Springs. Palm Springs was still a small town. We did quite well. We were able to save some money. In the meantime, you boys were in school and doing quite well. We bought a bigger trailer after we moved to Palm Springs. We stayed there till we rented a house and lived in there for maybe 1 or 2 years. And after that, we rented an apartment just about half a block from the market. We were in Palm Springs for 9 years. We did everything ourselves. We didn't have to hire people. So we were able to save some money. I remember every week I would go to the bank to deposit at least $400 put away every week. And then when it gets to be too much in a business account, and we would take a chunk out of that and put it in our saving account. So we kept saving money. He always say, we eat at the cost. We did. We eat at the cost. Didn't have to buy very much. No time to go shopping anyway. And then Dad was thinking, well, he worked long enough because he started to work when he was a very young boy. In those days, China was in a great change because Mao Zedong united the whole country. So pretty soon, Dad thinking, it would be nice to go back when a country is changing. And so one day he said, let's go to Hong Kong. I said, to live? He said, yes. He didn't say to China, he said, let's go back to Hong Kong. Well, at that time, my mother was in Hong Kong by herself. I said, that would be a good thing because then I can take care of Mother. And so we decided to go and pack everything. Once we get to Hong Kong, it was difficult to get a permanent visa in Hong Kong, a residential visa. So what do? One day we say, let's go to visit Macau. And we took this ferry to Macau. And Macau is very nice, beautiful, a little Portuguese colony. Not many people like Hong Kong. And some new houses are being built. And so the first thing we thought, well, see if we can find some school for you boys. Well, there is a Catholic English school, so we went to talk to the father over there, and they were very helpful. So you were accepted by the school. And then we found this missionary, Father Krishna. He's very helpful. He said, I'll take you to see some houses. Maybe you can rent an apartment somewhere in Macau. Oh, at the same time, they took us to see the Portuguese immigration. So they gave us a residential visa. So all this arranged all in one day. So immediately we went back to Hong Kong and packed everything. Went to Macau. That was good. I'm glad we went to Macau. The next year we bought the house near the sea. That was a nice house. It was quite cheap, $30,000 or something. Grandma was in Hong Kong, and since we have empty apartment downstairs, so we asked her to come and live with us. So she and another friend, Hui King, she and mother share this apartment downstairs, and they really enjoy each other's company. And we hired a servant to take care of us. And then she lives downstairs and she helped them too. So the second year I went out to teach because there was so much need for someone who could speak English to teach English. And so I taught English in the Baptist High School and also Tap Ming, Zhonghe. And then later on I took another class in St. Joseph High School. So I was running around from one school to another every day. Then after 3 years, you boys come back to this country, and we were by ourselves. So immediately, Dad thought of having me go to Bethel to teach. So almost the same day, we talked to Auntie Alice and Vera. And of course, they want me to go open arm because they needed someone too. I went back to Bethel, and I fit into that place very well because of my background and my training. So I went to Hong Kong to teach while he was very busy writing a pamphlet to try to urge the government to improve the method of growing things, improve the habit of eating. Don't just eat rice, eat other nourishing things like that. He spent a lot of time writing this himself, and then took this into China and hired somebody to translate that into Chinese and then have it printed into a little pamphlet. So when that was done, he sent the pamphlet to different places, important people, let them see it. It took him quite a long time to do all these things. He had to go to China several times to have it done. So he didn't miss me. He was very busy while I was teaching in Hong Kong. But then when that was done, then he had nothing to do. He said, you shouldn't stay in Hong Kong. You should come back. He's the one who told me to go to Hong Kong, right? But now he wanted me to come back. So I really didn't want to come back because I was having a good time teaching in Hong Kong, and had a very good relationship with the co-workers and the students. And he didn't want me to be involved anymore with church or anything. He said, that's not your business. So I said, okay, I'll stay home and take care of you. After a long struggle, I decided to do that, to do nothing else but just take care of him, make the place nice and clean, cook and so forth. And we continued to stay in Macau. 1966, Dad spent a lot of time and effort to improve our roof. That's where Dad planted a lot of things. So that was his outdoor life every day. He refused to eat downstairs. Every meal has to be carried upstairs. So I was doing all that every day, carrying dishes and carrying food. I taught myself into doing that willingly. I thought, well, this is a good exercise for me. But then later on he realized that it's a little bit too much. So he bought a stove and bought a sink so I can cook upstairs and wash dishes. We live up on the roof, except at night to come down. When the Cultural Revolution came to halfway, he began to realize something is wrong in China. Mao Zedong is not doing what he thought he was doing. So he lost faith in him. And then he was getting older. He thought, well, we shouldn't be too far away from the children. Frankie was ready to get a job. Oh, you were still in Thailand. We shouldn't be too far away from the children as we go older. So we decided to come back. The end of 1972, we came back to Frankie's in San Jose, and Frankie helped us find this apartment not too far away. That was really nice. We enjoyed living in that little apartment. You came back and went to school, so we stayed there for 2 years until you graduated. The very day you get your first job, we moved to Yucaipa. The reason we went there because when we were in Palm Springs, we went around to different areas to visit, and he liked Yucaipa, and nice air and nice little town, and he always thought about Yucaipa. So we decided to move there. First we lived in an apartment, but then at that time we knew some friends who live in mobile home, invited us to go to visit them, and we thought, oh, mobile home is very nice, and it's much cheaper. So we bought one and moved into this mobile home park. It's in Hidden Valley, mobile home park. And so we moved in, and we got to know the neighbors. I think of all the places we live, that was the best place. I like it there too, and I like the mobile home. I think that's the best house I ever live in. So after Dad passed away, I stayed on for 4 more years because it was so nice, and the neighbors were so nice. I keep the mobile home in very good shape, and every year I update it a little bit. I changed the carpet, bought dishwasher, clothes washer, dryer, and I fixed the hutch into a glass and closed shelves to display Dad's beautiful things. Every year I did something to improve. So by the time I left, I saw this place. It's in very good shape. 1987. I came to Sacramento. I was thinking of finding a retirement complex. I asked you to look for one. You found Pioneer House. I liked it immediately. I thought this was the place. So I disregard everything else. And after 3 years, I have several friends who live in Pioneer Tower, which is a bigger place. Only well people live there. I was well, and I know the director. I said, if you find a place that is facing south and higher up, I would take it. So in a few days he said, there is a place, come and look at it. So I look at this 1015 and I like it. I said, okay, I'll take it. And we just moved, and I like it. I really like that. Everything worked out so well because ever since I quit my teaching job in Hong Kong, I stopped everything, not being involved with church, because I made a promise that I would totally look after him, not being involved outside of the home. So I did that until he passed away. So even after he's gone, I was still in a mobile park. I didn't involve myself with the church all much, except to going to church on Sunday. But there's always a desire within me. So when I came to Pioneer House, I got to know Ruby, Dr. Xu, these Chinese friends, and they were going to this Riverside United Methodist. So they found out my background, sing, I can play piano or something. They said, come to my church. We have people to come and pick us up. You just come with us. I said, okay. I haven't found a church yet. So I went to their church. As soon as I walked into the church, this one wanted me to do this, that one wanted me to do that, just like I was there all the time. And I started to get myself involved with everything. Nothing stopped me. I was able to do everything I like to do, teaching or singing or preaching or whatever. Anything I want to do, they have it. So I can do. So this last few years really have been very happy and very busy. Fortunately, I have that. Otherwise, there's no challenge, there's no direction, just to self-seeking. I don't like to do that. I like to do something to contribute to other people. So that gives me that opportunity to do that. I sort of discovered myself. Teaching piano, I get to know these children, and now they're grown up. Some of them are in college, and they still remember me. They have become Christians, I think, through some of my influence. I'm very glad about that. Yeah, of course, I'm getting older, everything is diminishing. To be born into this world is to learn. If you don't learn anything, your time is wasted. And I really have learned a lot. Learn how to be a person and to be useful, whether you are at home or at work. I'm glad I was useful. I think that's most important in life.